There's a truth in the Bible that almost no one talks about, and when you hear it, it might challenge everything you've been taught about honesty, openness, and trust. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Not everything in your life is meant to be shared. Some things are sacred, some things are vulnerable, and some things, once spoken to the wrong person, can be used against you in ways you never expected. The Bible never teaches reckless openness. It teaches discernment. Jesus himself spoke in parables, not because he couldn't be clear, but because not everyone was ready or worthy of understanding. And that leads to a question you need to ask yourself right now. Have you been sharing parts of your life with people who were never meant to hold them? Stay with me, because what I'm about to show you isn't just advice. It's protection. There are 3 specific things God is warning you not to share with everyone. And the third one is the one most people get wrong, and it costs them the most. Number 1, your deepest dreams and future plans. This one surprises people, because we're told to speak our dreams out loud, to announce our goals, to tell the world what we're building. But here's what most people miss. Not everyone celebrates your vision. Some people hear your dreams and silently hope they fail. Proverbs 21:5 tells us, "The plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance." But it doesn't say, announce them to everyone. Most people think sharing their goals creates accountability. But the truth is, it often creates exposure. Exposure to doubt, exposure to jealousy, exposure to people who don't understand what God placed inside you. Think about Joseph. He had a dream from God, a powerful vision of his future. And what did he do? He shared it with the wrong people, his own brothers. And instead of supporting him, they betrayed him. They threw him into a pit, sold him into slavery. The dream wasn't the problem. The audience was. Here's what most people never realize. When you share a dream too early, you invite opinions that weren't meant to shape it. Doubt is contagious. You start second-guessing yourself, questioning what you once felt certain about, and slowly, you shrink your vision to match their understanding. But here's what changes everything. God gives you a vision before he gives you validation. That vision is meant to be protected, not broadcasted, built in silence, strengthened in private. Because not everyone can handle what God showed you. Some people only understand what they've already seen. So ask yourself honestly, have you been sharing your future with people who are still stuck in your past? Because sometimes, the fastest way to delay your purpose is to expose it too early. Number 2, your personal struggles and weaknesses. Now this one is tricky, because yes, the Bible teaches us to seek counsel, to confess, to not carry everything alone. But here's the key difference. Not everyone is safe to be vulnerable with. Most people think vulnerability equals connection. But the truth is, vulnerability without discernment leads to damage. Proverbs 25:9 says, "If you take your neighbor to court, do not betray another's confidence." Why? Because once something leaves your mouth, you no longer control where it goes. Most people think they understand me. They care about me. They would never use this against me. But here's what most people miss. People don't always reveal their intentions immediately. At first, they listen. They comfort you. They make you feel safe. But later, in a moment of conflict or jealousy or insecurity, that same information becomes a weapon. And suddenly, the thing you trusted them with is now being used to define you. You've probably experienced this before. You shared something personal, something painful, and later, you heard it repeated, twisted, or exposed. And it changed how you saw that person forever. Here's the deeper truth. Not everyone deserves access to your inner world. Some people are curious, not caring. Some people listen, not to understand, but to collect. But here's what changes everything. Jesus had 12 disciples, but only 3 saw his deepest moments. And even among those 3, he still maintained boundaries, because vulnerability is not about saying everything. It's about sharing the right things with the right people. So instead of asking, should I open up? Ask a better question. Has this person proven they can carry what I'm about to share? Because once it's said, you can't take it back. And peace, once broken, is harder to rebuild. Number 3, your acts of kindness and good deeds. This is the one most people completely misunderstand. Because we live in a world that rewards visibility. Post it, share it. Let people see what you're doing. But listen carefully. Matthew 6:3 says, "When you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing." Why would God say that? Because the moment your good deeds become public for validation, they lose their spiritual power. Most people think sharing their kindness inspires others, and sometimes it does. But often, it feeds something deeper. Ego, recognition. The need to be seen is good, but here's the truth nobody talks about. Good deeds done for attention are no longer pure. They become performance. And the danger isn't just spiritual, it's psychological. You start needing validation to continue doing good. You measure your kindness by how it's received, and slowly, your motives shift. But here's what most people miss. The most powerful acts of kindness are the ones nobody knows about. The quiet help, the unseen sacrifice, the private generosity. Because those actions don't depend on recognition. They come from something deeper, integrity. And here's the deeper truth. When you constantly show your good deeds, you also expose yourself to something dangerous, expectation. People begin to expect it, demand it, take advantage of it, and suddenly, what was once generosity turns into obligation. But when it's done in silence, it stays sacred. It stays between you and God. And that's where true reward comes from. Not applause, not attention, but alignment. So let's bring this all together. Most people believe sharing everything is strength. But the truth is, discernment is strength. Knowing what to say, who to say it to, and what to keep sacred. Because your life has layers, public, personal, private. And when those boundaries collapse, confusion enters. Let me say that again. Not everything needs an audience. Your dreams need protection. Your struggles need discernment. Your kindness needs purity. And when you understand this, everything changes. You stop over-explaining yourself. You stop seeking validation from the wrong people. You stop exposing parts of your life that were never meant to be public. And instead, you move differently, quieter, wiser, stronger. Because here's the truth most people never realize. Access to you is a privilege, not a right. Not everyone deserves it. And that's not arrogance, that's wisdom. Before you leave, I want you to think about something. Who in your life currently has access to things they haven't earned? Your dreams, your struggles, your intentions. And what has that access cost you? If this message opened your eyes, type discernment in the comments. Just that one word, because that word means you're no longer moving blindly. You're moving with awareness, and awareness is the beginning of protection. If you want more content like this, rooted in truth, built for real life, stay connected. Because the next message might be exactly what you need to hear next. Some people go through life believing something is wrong with them. Like no matter how hard they try, nothing works. Doors close, people leave, plans collapse, and after a while, a quiet thought starts forming in the back of their mind. Maybe I'm cursed. But what if that thought is completely wrong? What if the very things you've been calling a curse are actually proof of something far more dangerous? A mark, not a mark of failure, a mark of selection. Because throughout history, the people God used the most were almost always the ones whose lives made the least sense in the beginning. So today I'm going to show you the signs, and I need you to stay with me, because the last one changes everything. Number 1, the pain that has no explanation. Let's start with the one most people try to ignore. Unexplainable pain. Not the kind you can point to and say, that's why this happened. No, this is different. This is when everything on the outside looks fine, but something inside you feels like it's breaking. You didn't see it coming. You didn't deserve it, and no one can fully explain it. Joseph lived this exact reality. He was loyal, obedient, faithful, and still, his own brothers threw him into a pit and sold him. No warning, no reason, just betrayal. And here's what most people miss. God didn't explain it to him in that moment. There was no voice saying, this is part of the plan. Just silence, just darkness, just pain. Because here's the truth most people never realize. Ordinary problems have ordinary explanations. But when God is preparing you for something extraordinary, the breaking won't match your current situation. It will only make sense when you reach your future. Romans 8:28 says that all things work together for good for those called according to his purpose, not some things. All things. That includes the pain you still don't understand. So if something in your life has hurt you in a way you can't explain, don't rush past it, because that kind of pain is rarely random. It's usually the first sign. Number 2, you don't fit anywhere. This one is quieter, but deeper. You've never fully belonged. Not in your family, not in your friendships, not even in places where you should feel comfortable. You connect with people, but there's always a distance, a feeling that you're different, and you don't know why. Moses lived like this his entire life. Born a Hebrew, raised as an Egyptian, accepted fully by neither. He didn't fit anywhere, and for years it probably felt like a flaw. But what looked like confusion was actually preparation. Because when the time came, Moses could stand in Pharaoh's palace and lead the Israelites out. He understood both worlds, and that only happened because he didn't belong to one. Here's the illusion most people believe. Fitting in means you're on the right path. But the truth is, when you are marked, you are often built for something that doesn't exist yet. So of course you won't fit into the current world. 1 Peter 2:9 calls you a chosen people, a special possession, not a mistake, not an accident, chosen. And that feeling you carry? It's not rejection, it's separation. And there's a difference. Rejection says you weren't accepted. Separation means you were set apart. Number 3, everything in your life is delayed. This is the one that breaks people, because delay doesn't look spiritual. It looks like failure. You had the vision, you had the calling, you felt it clearly, but nothing is happening. Time passes, opportunities disappear, and you start questioning everything. Did I hear wrong? Did I miss my chance? But here's what most people miss. The greatest threat to someone marked by God is not failure, it's delay, because delay creates doubt, and doubt makes you shrink. Abraham waited 25 years for a promise, not because God forgot, but because the promise required a foundation that took decades to build. Habakkuk 2:3 says the vision awaits an appointed time. Though it lingers, wait for it. Notice that. It doesn't say if, it says though, meaning the delay is expected. Here's the deeper truth. Most people want promotion, but they're not ready for the weight of it. Without preparation, elevation becomes destruction. Joseph had to go through the pit, the prison, the silence, because without that process, he wouldn't have survived the palace. So if your life feels delayed right now, ask yourself one question. Are you being delayed or are you being developed? Because from the inside, they feel identical, but they lead to completely different outcomes. Number 4, you are constantly misunderstood. This one hurts in a different way, because it's not just circumstances, it's people. You try to explain yourself, and it gets twisted. You speak truth, and it gets rejected. You act with good intentions, and it's questioned. And over time, it becomes exhausting. You start to feel invisible, or worse, misrepresented. David lived this reality. Anointed as king, but treated like a threat. Faithful, but hunted. Chosen, but isolated. And in Psalm 22, he cried out, "Why have you forsaken me?" Here's what most people think. If people misunderstand me, I must be doing something wrong. But the truth is, when you are carrying something different, people who can't see it will misinterpret it. Not because you're wrong, but because they don't have the perspective to understand it. And here's the dangerous part. If you keep trying to be understood by everyone, you will eventually dilute who you are. Discernment is protection. Not everyone is meant to understand you. Number 5, your life keeps breaking right before it works. This is the most frustrating pattern. Things start coming together. You feel momentum. You think, finally, it's happening. And then suddenly it collapses. Again, and again, and again. Most people see this as failure. But here's the deeper truth. God often allows things to break right before they become permanent, because temporary structures cannot carry permanent purpose. Think about it. If something keeps collapsing in your life, maybe it's not meant to hold what's coming next. Most people build fast, but God builds deep. And depth takes pressure. Here's what I need you to understand. The signs of being marked by God do not look like blessings at first. They look like confusion. They look like isolation. They look like delay. And the enemy uses those exact moments to whisper, "You're cursed. You're behind. You're forgotten." But Jeremiah 29:11 says something completely different. God has plans to give you a future and a hope, not confusion. Not destruction, a future. And here's the pattern you cannot ignore. Joseph looked forgotten right before elevation. Moses looked lost right before purpose. David looked defeated right before the throne. Every single one of them had a moment where the evidence said, "It's over." And then everything changed. So let me ask you something honestly. What if your life right now is not falling apart? What if it's being repositioned? What if the pain, the delay, the confusion are not signs of rejection, but signs of preparation? Because 2 Corinthians 4:17 says your present struggles are producing something greater. Then you can see God doesn't see your pain as permanent. He sees it as construction. And here's the final truth most people never accept. Being marked by God is not comfortable. It's disruptive. It separates you. It stretches you. It breaks parts of you that cannot go where you're going, but it also builds something inside you that ordinary lives never develop. So if you've been feeling like nothing is working, if you feel out of place, if your life has been delayed, misunderstood, and broken, don't rush to label it as failure, because those exact signs have always followed the people who were about to change everything. Your story is not finished. You are not behind. And you are definitely not forgotten. You are in the middle of a process. And the next chapter will not look like the last one. If this message resonated with you, type "marked" in the comments. Just that one word. because I want to see who is starting to recognize what's really happening in their life. And if you're ready to understand these signs deeper, stay connected, because what comes next is even more revealing. Not every dangerous influence in your life looks dangerous. Some of the most harmful spiritual influences don't come as enemies. They come as friends, as family, as people you trust. And that's exactly why most people miss them. We've been taught to look for obvious evil, but the Bible reveals something deeper, something more subtle, something far more dangerous. Because the greatest threats to your spiritual life don't attack you directly. They influence you quietly. Before we go any further, you need to understand this foundation clearly. This is not about labeling people as demons. The Bible never teaches that. It teaches discernment. Ephesians 6:12 makes it clear, we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against spiritual forces. That means the person is not the enemy. The influence behind them is. And once you understand that, everything changes. Because now you're not reacting emotionally, you're observing spiritually. Most people think demonic influence looks like chaos, violence, or obvious evil. But the truth is, it often looks reasonable, supportive, comforting, even loving. And that's what makes it dangerous. Because if something looks evil, you avoid it. But if it feels familiar, you trust it. And that's exactly how influence enters your life. Here's what most people miss. Demons don't prefer confrontation. They prefer access. If they can't stop you directly, they will slowly redirect you. Not away from God completely, just slightly off path, just enough to delay you, confuse you, weaken your clarity. And over time, that small shift becomes your entire direction. So how do you recognize it? Let's break it down. Number 1, they slowly pull you away from God without ever telling you to leave Him. This is the most subtle sign. They don't say, stop believing. They don't say, turn away. Instead, they say things that sound harmless. You're doing too much. Relax, God understands. Everyone sins. You don't have to be so strict. And at first, it sounds reasonable, but here's the deeper truth. God's voice moves you forward. Demonic influence moves you sideways. Not away, just distracted. And distraction is often more dangerous than opposition. Because when you're distracted, you don't even realize you're drifting. The Bible warns that Satan disguises himself as an angel of light. That means not everything that feels good is from God. Some things feel comfortable because they're designed to weaken your discipline. So pay attention. If someone consistently minimizes your conviction, normalizes behavior you know is wrong, or makes obedience feel unnecessary, that's not just personality. That's influence. Number 2, they react when you start obeying God. This one reveals everything. When you talk about God, they're fine. When you live differently, they change. The moment you set boundaries, the moment you say no, the moment you choose discipline, their energy shifts. They become irritated, defensive, uncomfortable. Why? Because obedience breaks influence. And anything that loses control will react when that control disappears. Jesus said that people who live in darkness avoid the light, because light exposes what's hidden. So when your obedience exposes something, don't take the reaction personally. Understand it spiritually. Because the truth is, you didn't change. You just stopped being easy to influence. Number 3, they bring confusion, chaos, or emotional instability into your life. Pay attention to what happens after you spend time with certain people. Not what they say, not how they act, but what you feel. Do you feel clear or confused? Do you feel peaceful or unsettled? Do you feel focused or mentally scattered? Because the Bible says God is not the author of confusion, but of peace. That means confusion has a source, and it's not random. Some people carry chaos into every environment. Drama follows them. Problems expand around them. Fear increases when they speak. And here's the key truth. Whatever a spirit carries, it spreads. If someone constantly disrupts your peace, you don't need more explanation. You need more discernment. Number 4, they resist truth but embrace opinions. This one is subtle and dangerous. They are comfortable discussing ideas, debating perspectives, sharing opinions. But the moment truth enters the conversation, especially biblical truth, they resist it. They say things like, that's your interpretation. Times have changed. That's too extreme. But here's the deeper pattern. Truth requires change. Opinions allow comfort. And anything that resists truth is protecting something. The Bible warns that people will gather teachings that tell them what they want to hear, instead of what they need to hear. So when someone consistently avoids truth, twists it, or becomes uncomfortable when it's mentioned, you're not dealing with simple disagreement. You're dealing with resistance. Number 5, they weaken your confidence and spiritual clarity. This is where it gets personal. After being around them, you don't feel tempted. You feel uncertain. You start doubting things you were once sure about, questioning boundaries you already established. feeling guilty for doing what you know is right. That's not growth, that's interference. Because God does not create confusion inside you. He creates clarity. James 1:8 says a double-minded person is unstable in all their ways. So if someone constantly makes you second-guess your convictions, they are not strengthening you. They are destabilizing you. And here's what most people never realize. Demonic influence doesn't start with sin. It starts with confusion. Because once you're confused, you're easier to control. Now let's go deeper. Because recognizing these signs is only the beginning. The real question is, what do you do with this awareness? Most people make one of two mistakes. They either ignore it completely, or they become paranoid. But discernment is neither of those. Discernment is awareness with wisdom. Jesus loved everyone. But he did not give everyone access. And that's the part most people struggle with. Because we confuse love with unlimited access. But the Bible never teaches that. In fact, it repeatedly emphasizes boundaries. You can care for someone and still protect your spirit. You can love someone and still limit their influence. You can forgive someone and still create distance. Because access determines influence, and influence shapes direction. This is why Proverbs warns us to guard our heart above all else. Not some things, above all else. Because everything in your life flows from it. So ask yourself honestly, who has access to your thoughts? Who influences your decisions? Who shapes your emotional state? And more importantly, what spirit are they carrying into your life? This is not about fear. This is about clarity. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. And that's where transformation begins. Here's the truth most people avoid. Not everyone in your life is meant to stay close. Some people are assignments. Some are lessons. Some are temporary. And some you need to love from a distance. That doesn't make you cold. It makes you wise. Because if you don't protect your environment will shape you. Slowly, quietly, without you even noticing. And by the time you realize it, you're no longer who you were. So let this be your moment of awareness. Not fear, not judgment, awareness. Because discernment is not about pushing people away. It's about choosing what influences stay close. And once you start choosing intentionally, everything changes. Your peace increases, your clarity returns, your confidence strengthens. And most importantly, your relationship with God becomes stronger because it's no longer competing with noise. So here's the question I want you to sit with. Who in your life brings clarity? And who brings confusion? Who strengthens your convictions? And who weakens them? Who pulls you forward? And who keeps you distracted? Answer that honestly, because your future is shaped by those answers. If this message opened your eyes, don't ignore it. Type discernment in the comments as a declaration that you are choosing clarity over confusion. And if you want to go deeper into biblical wisdom that protects your spirit without turning you cold or isolated, stay connected. Because awareness is just the beginning. Clarity is a form of obedience. Your home is not just a place you sleep. It's not just walls, furniture, or a roof over your head. Your home is your spirit made visible. It's your peace, your energy, your family's future, living in physical form. Most people think danger comes from strangers, from enemies, from obvious threats. But the Bible warns about something far more subtle. The real danger comes from the people you trust enough to let inside. Stay with me, because by the end of this, you're going to think of someone specific. And the third one, almost no one sees coming until the damage is already done. Number 1, the flatterer. This is the person who always sounds good. They speak sweetly. They praise you constantly. They agree with everything you say. At first, it feels like love. They make you feel seen, appreciated, important. But here's what most people miss. Not all kindness is honest. Proverbs 29:5 says, "Whoever flatters his neighbor is spreading a net for his feet." A net, a trap. Let that sink in. Most people think encouragement builds you, but the wrong kind of encouragement blinds you. The flatterer doesn't correct you. They don't challenge you. They don't warn you when you're about to make a mistake. They keep you comfortable, because comfort keeps you predictable, and predictable means controllable. Here's the illusion. Most people think, if someone supports me, they care about me. But the truth is, real care sometimes feels uncomfortable. Real care tells you the truth when it's inconvenient. The flatterer? They tell you what benefits them. Think about Judas. He didn't betray Jesus with anger. He didn't come with a weapon. He came with a kiss. That's how deception works. It doesn't attack. It approaches. And here's what changes everything. The flatterer doesn't want your growth. They want access. Access to your space. Access to your trust. Access to your life. So ask yourself honestly, is there someone in your life who has never disagreed with you? Never challenged you? Never told you a hard truth? That's not loyalty. That's a setup. And the Bible is clear. That person doesn't belong in your home. But here's what most people miss. The flatterer is actually the easiest to spot. Once you understand this, The second type is harder, because they don't hide behind sweetness. They come in loud. Number 2, the contentious person. This is the one who brings chaos into your space. Every time they visit, something shifts. There's tension, there's drama, there's conflict that didn't exist before they arrived. And somehow, they're always at the center of it. Proverbs 21:19 says, "Better to live in a desert than with a quarrelsome and nagging person." Think about that. The Bible is literally saying loneliness is better than constant conflict. That's not exaggeration, that's protection. Because here's what most people underestimate. Conflict is contagious. You think you're just tolerating it. You think you're strong enough to handle it. But slowly, you start speaking differently. You start reacting differently. You start carrying tension that isn't even yours. And one day, you look around your home, and it doesn't feel peaceful anymore. It feels heavy. That's not random. Proverbs 26:21 explains it perfectly. A contentious person is like charcoal to embers and wood to fire. They don't have to start the fire. They just have to be present. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Sometimes, this person is family, a sibling, a parent, a relative you feel obligated to welcome. And we tell ourselves, it's okay, they're family. But wisdom doesn't make exceptions for blood. Let that sit with you. Most people think setting boundaries is rejection. But the truth is, setting boundaries is protection. You are responsible for the atmosphere inside your home, not them. You. And you cannot build peace while repeatedly inviting chaos through your front door. But here's where it gets deeper. The first person manipulates your perception. The second person disrupts your peace. The third one, they change who you become. Quietly, slowly, without you even noticing. Number 3, the morally corrupt person. This is the one almost nobody sees clearly. Because they're not loud. They're not obviously dangerous. They're likable, charming, fun to be around. And that's exactly why they're dangerous. They don't attack your values directly. They erode them, gradually. You start laughing at things you once felt uncomfortable with. You start tolerating conversations that used to bother you. You start lowering your standards, just a little, then a little more. And here's the part that should wake you up. 1 Corinthians 15:33 says, "Bad company corrupts good character." Not might corrupt, not could corrupt, corrupts, guaranteed. But here's what most people think. I'm strong enough not to be influenced. No, you're human enough to be influenced. That's the truth. The morally corrupt person doesn't need to convince you to change. Their presence does the work. Over time, your home starts to feel different. Less like a sanctuary, more like the world you were trying to protect yourself from. And the tragedy is, you usually love this person, which makes it harder to see clearly. But here's the truth most people avoid. Love without discernment leads to destruction. Now let me show you something deeper. Most people think this message is about cutting people off. It's not. It's about understanding access, because not everyone deserves access to your sacred space. Jesus loved everyone, but he didn't give everyone access. That's the difference. And here's the shift that changes everything. Keeping the wrong people out is not rejection. It's protection, not just for you, but for everyone inside your home, your children, your partner, your future self. Proverbs 4:23 says, "Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it." Your home is your heart made physical. So if your heart needs guarding, so does your home. Let me bring this full circle. The flatterer steals your discernment. The contentious person steals your peace. The morally corrupt person steals your values. And if you lose those 3 things, you don't just lose comfort. You lose direction. You lose clarity. You lose yourself. But here's what most people miss. Discernment is not about becoming cold. It's about becoming wise. You can love people and still limit their access. You can care about someone and still protect your space. You can pray for them without letting them influence you. That's maturity. That's spiritual awareness. That's protection. So here's the question, and don't answer it lightly. Who have you been allowing into your space that has been quietly changing your atmosphere? Take a moment, be honest, because clarity like this is rare. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. If this opened your eyes, I want you to do something simple. Drop 1 number in the comments. 1 for the flatterer, 2 for the contentious person, 3 for the morally corrupt one. No explanation needed, just the number, because that 1 number means you're aware. And awareness is the first step to protection. Most people think God's blessings look obvious. A bigger house, more money, a life that finally makes sense. But what if that belief is the reason you feel like you're missing out? What if you've already been blessed and you just didn't recognize it? Stay with me, because today we're going to uncover 5 things, simple things, quiet things, that most people overlook every single day. And if you have even one of them, truly have it, then you are not behind in life. You are already blessed. And the third one, most people don't realize its value until it's gone. Number 1, peace in your mind, not happiness, peace. Those are not the same thing. Happiness depends on circumstances. Peace exists despite them. Most people are chasing happiness, but the truth is, happiness is fragile. It disappears the moment life gets difficult. Peace doesn't, and that's what makes it rare. Look around. There are people with everything the world says you should want: money, success, attention, and they cannot sleep at night. Their minds are loud, restless, always searching for something else. But then there are people, maybe even you, who can sit in silence and feel okay. Not perfect, not problem-free, just okay. That calm feeling? That's not normal. That's a gift. The Bible says the peace of God surpasses all understanding. That means it doesn't make sense. It shows up in moments where it shouldn't. And if you've ever felt it, even briefly, you know exactly what that means. But here's what most people miss. They treat peace like something small, something ordinary, when in reality, people are spending years and thousands of dollars trying to find what you already carry inside. If your mind can rest even for a moment, don't take that lightly. That is not luck. That is blessing. Number 2, you had food today. I know. You've heard this before. Be grateful for food. And it sounds basic. So you nod and move on. But stop for a second. Actually think about it. Right now, somewhere not far from you, someone is going to sleep hungry. Not by choice, not for discipline, but because they don't know when their next meal will come. And you? You ate today. Maybe it wasn't perfect. Maybe it wasn't what you wanted. But it was there. And here's the deeper truth. The difference between having food and not having food is not small. It's everything. Most people don't understand hunger. Real hunger, the kind that keeps you awake, the kind that turns survival into your only focus. And because we don't understand it, we overlook the blessing of not experiencing it. But here's what most people miss. God didn't have to provide that meal. There was no guarantee. Yet somehow it showed up, again and again and again. That consistency, that quiet provision, that's not random, that's grace. And the moment you slow down enough to see it, gratitude changes everything. Number 3, someone would answer if you called. This one is different. This one is deeper than people think. Look at your phone, not your contacts list, not your followers, just one question. Is there at least one person you could call at 2 a.m. and they would pick up? Not text you later, not ignore it, not respond when it's convenient, but actually pick up. If the answer is yes, you are wealthy in a way the world cannot measure. Because loneliness is one of the biggest crises in the world right now. People are surrounded by others, but still feel alone. They have conversations, but no connection. They have attention, but no support. And you? You have someone real, someone who knows you, knows your story, and still stays. That is not common. That is not guaranteed. That is intentional. God places people in your life for a reason. And here's what most people miss. They only realize the value of that person after they lose them, after the calls stop, after the silence becomes permanent. Don't wait for that moment. If you have someone like that, protect that relationship. Nurture it. Reach out this week. Not because you need something, but because you recognize what you already have. Number 4, you woke up today. Don't rush past this. Most people do. They hear it and dismiss it. But think about it carefully. You didn't earn today. You didn't qualify for it. You didn't apply and get approved. You simply opened your eyes. And somewhere, someone didn't. Someone with plans, someone with goals, someone who thought they had more time. But they didn't wake up. No warning, no final goodbye, no second chance, and you did. That alone changes everything. Because every morning you wake up, it's not just another day. It's a message. God is saying, I'm not done with you yet. You still have purpose. You still have time. You still have something left to do. But here's what most people miss. They waste that gift, complaining about small things, rushing through the day, forgetting how rare it is to even have the opportunity. You woke up. That means your story is still being written. And as long as that's true, you are not behind. You are still in progress. Number 5, you still have faith. And this might be the most powerful of them all, because faith changes how you see everything else. Without faith, peace feels temporary, food feels random, people feel uncertain, life feels meaningless. But with faith, everything shifts. Faith gives direction to your life. It turns survival into purpose. It makes you look at a difficult season and say, this is not the end. And that matters more than you think, because life will challenge you. People will doubt you. Situations will break you. You will question yourself. But faith is what brings you back. Again and again and again. And here's what most people miss. The fact that you're watching this right now. The fact that something in you is drawn toward meaning, toward God, toward something bigger than yourself. That's not an accident. That's evidence. Even the smallest amount of faith matters. The Bible says faith the size of a mustard seed is enough. Enough to move forward. Enough to keep going. Enough to believe, even when nothing around you makes sense. If you still have that, even a little, then God hasn't given up on you, and you shouldn't give up on yourself. Protect that faith, feed it, because it multiplies everything else. Now let's step back for a moment. Most people are waiting for blessings that are loud, visible, impressive, but the deepest blessings are quiet. Peace in a chaotic world. A meal when others go without. One real person in a sea of noise. Another day to try again. And a faith that refuses to die. If you have even one of these things, you are not forgotten. You are not behind. You are not lacking. You are blessed. And maybe the shift you need today isn't working harder, isn't chasing more. Maybe it's simply opening your eyes to what's already there. Because gratitude doesn't wait for more. Gratitude recognizes enough. If this message spoke to you, if something here hit deeper than expected, I want you to do one simple thing. Go to the comments and type one word, blessed, that's it. Because I want to see how many people are finally realizing that God has already been working in their life, even when they didn't see it. And if someone came to your mind while listening to this, share this with them. Because sometimes, the reminder of what we already have is the very thing that changes everything. Have you ever felt pulled towards something you couldn't explain? Not fear, not pressure, but a quiet certainty that refuses to leave you alone. Most people ignore that feeling. They call it emotion. They call it coincidence. But here's the truth. That might be the very moment God is trying to direct your life. And if you don't understand how He leads, you might mistake direction for confusion and purpose for pressure. Stay with me. Because by the end of this, you will recognize the exact signs that God is guiding you, and more importantly, what to do when you realize He is. Number 1, you feel inner alignment before you see external results. Most people think God's direction shows up as obvious signs, clear answers, perfect opportunities. But the truth is, God starts on the inside. It's that quiet pull you feel when no one is influencing you. No pressure, no hype. Just a steady sense of, this is where I'm supposed to go. And here's what most people miss. God speaks through peace, not panic. That doesn't mean the path is easy. It means your spirit isn't fighting it. You may still feel nervous. You may still have questions. But deep down, something feels settled. Colossians 3:15 says, "Let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts." That word rule means to decide, to govern. Peace isn't just a feeling, it's a signal. If the direction brings clarity instead of chaos, if it draws you closer to God, not farther, that's not random. That's guidance. Number 2, doors start closing, and others open unexpectedly. Now this is where it gets uncomfortable, because when God directs your life, things don't always go your way. In fact, many times, they stop going your way. Doors you wanted, closed. Plans you made, blocked. But then suddenly, opportunities you never planned for begin to open, and forcing things starts to feel exhausting. That's not bad luck, that's redirection. Proverbs 16:9 says, "In their hearts humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps." Here's the deeper truth. God often guides by removing options, because as long as you have control, you won't rely on Him. So He simplifies your path, not to limit you, but to align you. Number 3, the path feels uncomfortable, but you're still drawn to it. This is where most people get it wrong. They think, if this is from God, it should feel easy. But the truth is, God's direction often creates resistance before it creates results. Growth feels like pressure. Calling feels like stretching. And obedience? It often feels like risk. You feel pulled forward, but not fully equipped. You sense movement, but not certainty. And here's what most people never realize. That discomfort is not confusion. It's confirmation. 2 Corinthians 5:7 says, "We walk by faith, not by sight." If you could see everything clearly, you wouldn't need faith. God reveals the path step by step, not all at once. So if you feel uncomfortable, but still drawn forward, you're not lost. You're being led. Number 4, you keep seeing the same message again and again. God doesn't rush clarity. He reinforces it. When He's directing your life, He repeats Himself. Not audibly, but consistently. The same message shows up in different ways. A verse you didn't search for. A conversation that answers a private prayer. A thought that won't leave your mind. That's not coincidence, that's confirmation. 2 Corinthians 13:1 says, "Every matter shall be established by 2 or 3 witnesses." God doesn't confuse you, He confirms you. But here's what most people miss. He repeats the message until you respond, not until you feel ready. Number 5, you start losing interest in things that once felt normal. This one is subtle, but powerful. When God is directing your life, your desires begin to shift. Things that once entertained you start to feel empty. Conversations that once excited you start to feel draining. Environments that once felt comfortable start to feel misaligned. Most people think something is wrong, but the truth is, you're outgrowing what no longer aligns with your purpose. This is how God separates you, without announcing it. Because before He changes your direction, He changes your appetite. Number 6, you feel a growing conviction you can't ignore. Conviction is not guilt. It's direction. It's that internal voice saying, this isn't who you're supposed to be. And it doesn't scream, it whispers. But it doesn't go away. The more you ignore it, the louder it feels. The more you resist it, the more uncomfortable you become. That's not pressure. That's alignment trying to happen. Because God doesn't just guide your path, He shapes your identity. And conviction is how He pulls you closer to it. Number 7, you feel called, even without full clarity. This is the final sign, and the most important one. You don't have all the answers. You don't see the full plan, but you feel called, and you can't explain why. You feel like you're supposed to move, even though you're not ready. You feel like something is shifting, even though nothing is visible yet. Most people wait for certainty. But here's the truth. Certainty is not how God leads. Faith is, God confirms direction after obedience, not before it. Just like Peter stepping out of the boat. The water didn't hold him until he moved. So if you're waiting to feel ready, you might be waiting forever. But here's what most people miss. God's direction doesn't force you. It invites you. You can ignore the peace. You can fight the nudges. You can delay the step. Or you can move forward, even while your hands are shaking. Because direction is not the same as control. God will show you the path, but He won't walk it for you. Final truth. Let's bring this together. If God is directing your life, you will feel peace before proof. You will see doors close and others open. You will feel uncomfortable but drawn forward. You will hear the same message repeatedly. You will outgrow what once felt normal. You will feel conviction that won't leave. And you will feel called, even without clarity. That is not confusion. That is alignment. That is direction. That is God. So here's the question, and don't answer it lightly. What is God asking you to trust Him with right now? Not someday, not when you feel ready, right now. Type trust in the comments if you feel that pull. Because the moment you recognize His direction is the moment your life begins to change. And if this spoke to you, stay close. Because the next step God is leading you into will require more faith than the last. Someone disrespects you, and you feel nothing. Not because you're weak, not because you don't care, but because something inside you has changed. And once you understand this, you can't go back. Most people spend their entire lives reacting. Reacting to words, reacting to tone, reacting to how others treat them. But what if I told you, the problem was never them? Stay with me. Because by the end of this, you won't just feel calmer. You'll understand why people used to control your emotions, and why they never will again. Let's start with a question almost nobody asks. When someone disrespects you, why does it hurt? Think about it. A stranger says something rude. A friend ignores you. Someone cuts you off in traffic. And suddenly, your mood changes. But why? They don't know you. They don't control your life. And in a few hours, they'll forget you even exist. So why does it stay with you? Here's what most people miss. It's not what they did. It's what it meant. Every action carries a hidden message. They don't respect you. You're not important. You don't matter. And your mind accepts that message instantly. The Bible already revealed this thousands of years ago. Pride only breeds quarrels. That means your anger isn't about the situation. It's about identity. Most people think anger comes from outside. But the truth is, anger comes from inside. It's your identity reacting to a perceived threat. And here's the uncomfortable truth. The reason certain people bother you so much is because you're letting them define you. You've handed them a pen and allowed them to write on your worth. But here's what changes everything. Your value was never created by people. And anything people didn't create, they cannot destroy. The moment you truly understand that, something shifts. Someone insults you, and it doesn't land. Someone ignores you, and it doesn't shake you. Not because you're suppressing emotion, but because the message never gets accepted. But here's what most people miss. Knowing this and living this are two completely different things. Because emotions are fast, and anger is even faster. So how do you actually stop it in real time? This is where it gets deeper. Number 1, you must understand the story your mind creates. Every time something happens, your brain tells a story, instantly. They said something rude leads to they don't respect me, leads to I'm being disrespected, leads to I should react. All of that happens in less than a second. And here's the truth most people never realize. The story is almost always wrong. That person who ignored you might be overwhelmed. That person who snapped at you might be struggling with something you'll never see. But your brain doesn't wait for truth. It creates meaning and then reacts to it. The Bible gave a simple but powerful instruction: be quick to listen. Slow to speak, slow to anger. Notice the order. It doesn't say don't be angry. It gives you a process. Because anger is not the problem. Anger is the result. The real problem is the story you believe before anger even starts. So here's the shift. Instead of reacting, you pause. Instead of assuming, you observe. Instead of responding instantly, you create space. And inside that space is your power. Most people never experience this because they live in reaction. But the moment you create a gap, you take control. Stoic philosophy calls it a pause. The Bible calls it being slow to speak. But they both point to the same truth. The person who controls the gap controls their life. Number 2, you must stop taking everything personally. This one will challenge you. Most people believe the world revolves around them, not consciously, but emotionally. Someone's tone feels off implies it must be about me. Someone acts distant implies I must have done something. Someone is rude implies they're attacking me. But here's the truth. Most people are not thinking about you. They're thinking about themselves. Their stress, their problems, their emotions. And you just happen to be there. When you stop making everything about you, you stop being affected by everything. This doesn't make you cold. It makes you free. But here's what most people miss. Letting go of personal offense doesn't mean you lack self-respect. It means your self-respect is internal, not dependent. Number 3, you must stop carrying what was never yours. This is the hardest one, because sometimes people really do hurt you. Not by accident, not by misunderstanding, but intentionally. And in those moments, you feel justified in your anger. But here's the truth. Holding on to anger doesn't punish them. It punishes you. It lives in your body. It affects your thoughts. It steals your peace. Meanwhile, they move on. The Bible says, do not take revenge. Leave room for God's justice. Most people misunderstand this. They think it means being passive, weak, silent. But that's not what it means. It means releasing what was never yours to carry. Because when you hold on to anger, you stay connected to the person who hurt you. Emotionally, mentally, even physically. And the longer you hold it, the more control they have. Letting go is not losing. It's freedom. There's a powerful example. Joseph, betrayed by his own brothers, sold into slavery, forgotten, mistreated. Years later, he had the power to take revenge, and he didn't. He said, "You meant it for evil, but God meant it for good." No anger, no bitterness, no revenge. Why? Because he understood something deeper. What someone does to you does not define what happens for you. And once you truly understand that, you stop fighting every small battle, because you're no longer playing a small game. But here's what changes everything. Calm is not something you perform. It's something you build, one moment at a time. One response instead of reaction. One decision to not let others define you. Most people think emotional control is about suppression. It's not. It's about understanding. Understanding your triggers. Understanding your identity. Understanding your reactions. And when that understanding becomes real, something powerful happens. You stop needing validation. You stop needing to prove yourself. You stop needing to react. Someone disrespects you, and you feel nothing. Not because you're numb, but because you're grounded. And here's the deeper truth. Not everyone deserves access to your emotions. Not everyone deserves your energy. Discernment is protection. As the scripture teaches, you must guard your heart, because everything flows from it. This is not about becoming distant. It's about becoming aware. So let's bring this together. You get angry because you attach your identity to other people's actions. You react because your mind creates stories too quickly. You hold on to pain because letting go feels like losing. But the truth is, your identity is not theirs to define. Your reaction is yours to control. Your peace is yours to protect. And once you build that, everything changes. Here's what most people will never realize. Peace is not found in controlling others. It's found in controlling yourself. So the next time someone disrespects you, pause, observe, detach. And remember, they only have power if you give it to them. If something in this video shifted your perspective, I want you to do one simple thing. Type the word control in the comments. Not for me, for you. Because that word means something now. It means you understand. Your emotions are no longer controlled by the world. They are controlled by you. And that changes everything. There's a verse in the Bible most people skip over. Not because it's unimportant, but because it feels uncomfortable. Proverbs 9:8 says, "Do not rebuke a mocker, or they will hate you." Wait, read that again. The Bible is telling you not to help certain people? That doesn't sound right. Because most of us were taught the opposite. Help everyone, love your enemies, turn the other cheek. go the extra mile. And yes, that's true. But here's what most people miss. There's a difference between loving someone and letting them destroy you. Jesus helped thousands, but he also walked away from entire towns. He refused to answer certain people. He let some walk away without chasing them. Why? Because not everyone wants help. Some people don't want healing. They want access, they want attention, they want control. And if you don't understand this, you won't just waste your time. You'll lose yourself. So today, I'm going to show you 10 types of people the Bible warns you not to help. And as you listen, be honest, because you're going to recognize someone. Maybe more than one. Let's begin. Number 1, the mocker. Proverbs 9:8 continues, "Rebuke the wise and they will love you." See the difference? A wise person welcomes correction. A mocker rejects it. Most people think everyone wants truth. That's not true. The mocker doesn't want solutions. They want an audience. You give advice. They laugh. You offer guidance. They dismiss it. You show them a way out. They stay stuck. But here's the dangerous part. They're charming. They make you feel needed, important, valuable. But slowly, you realize something. You're not helping them rise. You're just keeping them company in their pit. And if you stay too long, that pit becomes yours too. Number 2, the constant fool. Proverbs 26:11 says, "As a dog returns to its vomit, so fools repeat their folly." This isn't about someone making mistakes. We all do that. This is about someone who repeats the same mistake over and over and over again. Same problem, different day. They ask for help. You show up. They thank you. And then 2 weeks later, it's the same crisis. Most people think helping them is kindness. But here's the truth. Your help is keeping them stuck because you're interrupting consequences. And sometimes consequences are the only teacher that works. Number 3, the hot-tempered person. Proverbs 22:24 says, "Do not make friends with a hot-tempered person." Notice something. It doesn't say fix them. It says avoid them. Why? Because anger spreads. You think you're strong enough to handle it. You're not. At first you justify them. Then you excuse them. Then one day you become like them. The energy you tolerate becomes the energy you carry. And the worst part? They'll convince you their anger is your fault. And slowly, you'll start believing it. Number 4, the gossip. Proverbs 20:19 says, "A gossip betrays a confidence." Here's the simplest test. If they gossip to you, they will gossip about you. They listen closely. They nod. They make you feel understood. And then your story becomes content, twisted, exaggerated, shared with people who shouldn't know. Most people think gossip is harmless. It's not. It's currency. Your pain becomes their social value. And the Bible doesn't say fix them. It says avoid them. Number 5, the sluggard. Proverbs 26:15 says, "A sluggard buries his hand in the dish, too lazy to bring it back to his mouth." It almost sounds funny until you meet one. This is someone who won't help themselves, but constantly expects you to. They always have excuses. Creative ones, convincing ones. But the outcome is always the same. You doing what they should do. This isn't struggle. This is a lifestyle. And if you keep helping them, you become part of the system that keeps them stuck. Number 6, the wicked schemer. Proverbs 24 warns us about people whose hearts plan harm. This person isn't lazy. They're strategic. They think ahead. But their plans don't include your well-being. They include your usefulness. They'll say, "We're in this together." But when things fall apart, you're the one holding the consequences. They disappear. Most people think intelligence equals trustworthiness. That's not true. Some intelligence is manipulation in disguise. And the Bible says don't desire their company, no matter how impressive they look. Now pause for a second, because here's what most people miss. Helping the wrong people doesn't just waste your time. It drains your capacity to help the right ones. And the next 4 types, these are the hardest, because they're usually close to you. Number 7, the ungrateful. 2 Timothy 3:2 says, "In the last days, people will be ungrateful." You give, you sacrifice, you show up, and they act like it's normal, like you owe them more. Gratitude isn't about repayment, it's about recognition. The ungrateful person doesn't see you. They see a resource, and the more you give, the more they expect, until your extraordinary becomes their baseline, and you're left wondering why you feel so empty. Number 8, the conceited. Proverbs says, "There is more hope for a fool than for someone wise in their own eyes." Let that sink in. More hope for a fool. Why? Because the conceited person doesn't want help. They want validation. They ask for your advice, but they've already decided what they're going to do. You speak truth, they nod, and then ignore it. And when things fail, somehow it becomes your fault. You cannot guide someone who believes they've already arrived. Number 9, the manipulator. This one is the most dangerous, because they don't force. They influence. They don't demand. They imply. They don't threaten. They guilt. They make helping them feel like your idea. You're the only one who understands me after everything we've been through. And suddenly, you're doing things that go against your values. And you don't even know how you got there. Manipulation doesn't look aggressive, it looks emotional. And that's why it works. Number 10, the one who hates correction. Proverbs 15:12 says, "Mockers resent correction." We've come full circle. This is the root of all the others. The person who refuses correction refuses growth. And if someone refuses growth, you cannot help them. You cannot guide them. You cannot change them. And here's the hardest truth. Sometimes loving someone means letting them fall. Now let's be clear. This doesn't mean you become cold. It doesn't mean you stop loving people. It means you become wise. Jesus healed 10 lepers. Only one came back to say thank you. He noticed, but he didn't chase the other 9. You are not responsible for saving everyone. You are not obligated to destroy yourself to keep someone else comfortable. Proverbs 4:23 says, "Above all else, guard your heart, because everything flows from it. Your energy is not unlimited. Your time is not infinite. Your peace is valuable. So guard it. Help the humble. Invest in the teachable. Pour into the grateful." But the 10 types we talked about today, love them from a distance. Pray for them, but don't give them access, because the people who truly need your help, the ones who will actually receive it, they're waiting for a version of you that hasn't been drained dry. So choose wisely, because who you help determines who you become. And who you become determines everything. If this opened your eyes, type "aware" in the comments, because awareness is where protection begins. And the moment you see clearly, you stop losing yourself trying to save everyone else.